Developing staff, situation number 2. The previous situation was obviously focused more on a candidate likely to be a sergeant. This situation is focused most definitely on someone who is an inspector. The situation then is that we have a role actor who is a sergeant. It would appear that they are bullying their staff. This sergeant is young and ambitious. Although not yet qualified, this person is very clearly focused on achieving rapid promotion. They are also, or perhaps for the same reason, very committed to providing the highest possible quality of service. To achieve this, they are dictatorial. The role actor reviews every piece of contact that they can, that their staff have with the public, in a very critical way, demanding everything at once, very quick to criticise in public, very slow to praise what is done well. This inexperienced supervisor is really still learning how to manage people and thinks that simply by making demands that they achieve results, and that if it's not done properly, then there must be some sort of deafness going on because shouting was most likely to achieve results. The current situation is that 2 staff on the team have requested a move to another team. And so as we go through the probing phase, what would have happened already is that the candidate would of course have challenged the bullying and would have had to have explained to the role actor the vulnerability they faced. They could be disciplined for politeness and tolerance. They could certainly be subject to the grievance procedure if an officer or more than one officer took that approach. And certainly they should recognise that they may achieve some small gains in the short term through this approach to management. They will actually, in the longer term, only diminish the staff's performance. However, during that probing phase, the sergeant remains relatively unfocused and does not recognise these words of wisdom, and so therefore we enter a solutions phase, which is not one where the participants are of one mind about things. Let's think how we can achieve in those circumstances. In the short term, the first issue to be tackled is relationship building. The candidate must acknowledge to the role actor that the desire they have to deliver quality of service is very good. However, they have to think of it not just in day-to-day, minute-by-minute quality of service, but in a sustained way, building up the team's skills, knowledge, confidence, abilities, imperative to deliver quality service as part of the mainstream of their work. In this way, recognising quality of service and describing it and closely focusing it is one thing, but actually by encouraging, praising, building a good team of people that work together well, will inevitably deliver quality of service. And the sergeant should therefore focus on these attributes of the team at least as much as demanding instant success. In the same way, talking of relationship building, the candidate must suggest to the role actor that they want to consider making an apology to those colleagues that they have abused. That isn't easy for any supervisor to do, and it may well be that they should meet again to discuss exactly how to go about that, because it cannot necessarily be achieved, and it may well be something that the sergeant would like to reflect on. So suggesting a meeting in a week's time, or in 2 days' time, or whatever, would be a reasonable way of letting the sergeant consider that. Making every decision instantly does not always lead to good decisions. The candidate will want to achieve performance improvement, and in that way should direct the sergeant to review staff workloads. Is the sergeant asking too much? Because if they are, we will not deliver quality of service. We can use this sergeant's fervent desire to deliver quality of service to achieve change. Using their perspective to achieve change is more likely to be successful than just relying on the candidate's perspective. Although the candidate won't be shouting at the sergeant, otherwise a similar approach may be resulting in that the candidate will just be demanding of the role actor. And that's the problem that the role actor has at the moment. So we don't want to repeat the same mistake. Showing opportunities for the for the role actor who wants to develop into an inspector may well be appropriate to allow the role actor to shadow the candidate. Although they're not qualified at the moment, it may well be that the candidate can demonstrate good leadership and management as a role model for the sergeant to help them improve. In the same way, the sergeant sees that they're having a positive relationship with the inspector and hopefully will therefore listen to what the inspector is saying about the relationship they should have with their team. Most definitely, this situation calls for an action plan, which you'll recall from the first situation I would describe as a mandatory plan. That will involve politeness to colleagues. During that process, the inspector will monitor the briefings and the everyday working environment in which the sergeant and the constables are working to ensure that there is fairness and there is politeness and tolerance, there is courtesy for everybody. A review should take place about whether or not the sergeant needs to attend again a supervisory course. It may well be that with this piece of information, the inspector should think about whether that is necessary and make that a conditional part of the action plan dependent on further reviews in due course. The action plan should be linked to the PDR. At the same time, this action plan shouldn't just be negative. Let's try to be positive wherever possible and encourage the sergeant to take Osprey, because actually if they've got something to aim for, then actually they've got some reason to change. Apart from the demand for acceptable standards, what's in it for the role actor? Always try to find an angle that gives them something out of it, as well as the candidate getting something out of it. In the longer term, with a successful action plan, upon being qualified to Part 1, then the candidate should agree to support the supervisor, learning to becoming an acting inspector and helping them in their development in that process. But it would be reasonable to expect, depending on what the exam is, that a period of at least 3 months should take place and sustained improvement to occur before that support is provided. And also in the long term, looking for ways in which team building activities can take place. Ideally, the candidate as inspector should be looking for activities where the sergeant and the constables can enjoy success together. That will be used, no doubt, as part of problem solving for crime and disorder issues, or maybe PACT issues. In working well together, achieving results together, and the sergeant learning that quality of service can be delivered not just by shouting, but actually by good leadership and good management, they will learn a better way to lead and to manage. As always, in outlining these plans to the role actor, I would seek understanding to make sure they know what we're talking about. Seek as much agreement as one can get, recognising in this case it will not be simple to do so. And certainly inviting the role actor to introduce any ideas that they have. That concludes Developing Staff Situation number 2.